Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Dear Profiler Pat, where you ask me questions, ask for my advice, I give my advice, and I always hope it helps you and others out there. If you would like some advice from me, please do send me an email at profilerpatbrown@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put Dear Profiler Pat. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, please do like the video, and also please check my playlist because each one of them is different categories, and you might find something in specific categories that is more focused on something you'd be interested in. So check out those categories. All right, now this one, it's an interesting one. It's a Dear Profiler Pat. What do you do when a loved one refuses treatment? And in this particular case, this person was refusing medical treatment because they believed not so much in the medical world, the world of doctors, but more in the world of nature. And then you have people, the same thing can be true for drug issues. It can be true for emotional issues. Should they're refusing therapy? What do you do about that? All right. So I want to read you this email, parts of it, and then I'll get into it. Okay. So the writer says that they have a relative who's been running an organic shop for 25 years. She does yoga, uses essential oils, does all kinds of alternative medicines. She doesn't trust conventional medicine. So she's the kind that that's the world she lives in, and she's lived in for 25 years. And then she got leukemia. She decided she was going to treat it with some charlatans she knows. And I wouldn't say the person is a charlatan. We tend to call anybody who doesn't believe in what we believe in a charlatan. And when the treatment doesn't work, it says, see, proves it. But when in reality, you can go to, let's say that person thinks this health practitioner, this natural health practitioner is a charlatan, but the doctor that they go to isn't a charlatan. But that person could have gone to that doctor and then ended up in the same condition or had something go wrong. Is that person a charlatan? So we easily label people charlatans when we don't agree with their methodology and it doesn't work. It kind of backs us up, right? So she said it didn't go well. So she refused blood transfusions. She got worse and worse. Then she said, this is an important point. It was not a case of her wanting to die in her own way rather than spend her last year in a hospital. And this is an important point I will get to about when people choose to refuse treatment. It was a case of her actually believing she knows better, 100% convinced. Well, pretty much doctors think they know 100%, that they're right. They're totally convinced when they give out their diagnoses, tell you what to do. Many people who think that everybody has their opinion, it tends to be convinced about it. That, we have to do this, and if we don't do this, this is bad. Another person says we have to do this, and if we don't do this, is bad. And they're opposites. Sometimes this person ends up being more right. This person ends up being more right. So we have to get away from our own arrogance to think that we know also what is right. So letter writer, your opinion isn't any more valid necessarily than this particular person's opinion. Just that yours is being verified because she didn't do well with the natural treatment that she got. All right. So she said that she wasn't trying to die. So it wasn't like that. She wasn't trying to avoid like severe pain. Like, sometimes people don't want to go through like the last months of chemo and stuff. They don't want to live in a hospital. So they're willing to die sooner, but without that kind of atmosphere and whatever is going to be done to their body. They're rolling the dice on that too, because I've seen there are people who haven't decided they didn't want to go to the hospital and suffer through that. And it's been a good thing for them. They've died more peacefully at home without all of that. On the other hand, some people refused that treatment in the last months and died a pretty miserable death anyway. So again, all the time with our bodies, we really don't know. It's like we're living in this apartment building, and the super, which is not us, is doing stuff to the building, and so are all the rest of the residents. And no matter what we try, somebody's screwing up our building, and we're paying the price for it. So, there's no absolute. This is the way that is the best. And so the letter writer says then It was really hard to see it happen. It is very hard to watch somebody go through something when you think you have a better way for them to live at that point in time. But you're not them, so you can't make that choice. But it is hard to watch. You're correct. What to do when someone believes things that are hurting them. And we go through this our entire lives. Oh my God, don't hook up with that person. Are you going to marry that one? Oh my God. Oh no, that's your life's in the toilet. You're going to go where? You're going to do what? You're eating what? We all have opinions on that. We all feel pain when we think that the other person could have made a better choice. And we feel it's very hard to watch. And then she says, the letter writer, she finally accepted treatment after more than 3 years and is getting better and better. Okay. So now, for whatever reasons, the treatment she finally just decided to get, which I guess is more medically oriented, is working at this point in time. And the letter writer also says, which I think is very fair, she says, she herself is actually very, very much into organic stuff. So it's not like she was against her loved one doing something, even being that direction. She wasn't. It's just that she felt that maybe at this point in time she'd gone too far and should have chosen another way. And okay, so that's the basics of this. And I think I have a rather interesting viewpoint on this because I'm that person she's probably talking about. Although I don't do yoga, can't stand it. And I try to eat organic, but I'm not so good at it. And I have a bad Diet Pepsi habit. So, okay, that's not healthy. So I'm no perfectionist in that whole area at all. So I travel. I try to be vegetarian, but I travel, and God knows what I've eaten in other countries. It's like, I'm not sure what this meat is. As long as it's not human, we're good. So, and I'm not fond of the medical establishment and traditional medicine. I'm not. And I'm that person that people get really annoyed with. My kids are like, Mom, could you just maybe you should get a checkup? I've had so many people on my YouTube channel. I say, what? You should get your checkup. Okay, the last checkup, full checkup I had was in 1990. So we're talking 35 years. And I was so displeased with that because during that checkup, I was recommended to get B12 shots every week for the rest of my life because I had no processing of B12 in my body because I was vegetarian at the time. And I was told if I didn't do that, I would become very ill. And never went back. I never got a B12 shot. And I never took them. 35 years later, one day for work, because I had to go get a TB shot and whatever, I said, go ahead and do the blood test. I did do that. And they did the blood test. My B12 was fine. So that doctor told me something that was not necessary. I also had an experience where I had a gallbladder attack during my pregnancy. And they told me when my pregnancy was over, I should get my gallbladder out. Still got that, baby. Never got it out because I knew that taking out your gallbladder can cause other problems. And I've seen people have other problems after they have the gallbladder removed. And what always annoyed me, because I worked mind you, I've worked in hospitals for 13 years of my life as an interpreter. So I've heard so much medical stuff, hospitals and doctor's appointments. I've been through other people's regular checkups. I've heard what the doctors have told them. And a lot of times I know what the doctors are telling them are not the right thing. For example, with the gallbladder, I have never heard a doctor say, change your diet. If the person has a gallbladder attack and they're still alive, the first thing you tell them is change your diet because you may be able to not need to get the surgery, because surgery should be a last option, not a first option. And yet they wouldn't even recommend changing the diet. And a lot of times doctors say, oh, they never follow that anyway. Well, I don't care if they don't follow it. You as a medical professional should at least tell them that, they should do this first, make that suggestion. And if they're too lazy to do it, don't like the food that they're going to have to eat on that diet and rather get their gallbladder out, well, so be it. But I've seen so many things that people have been told to do, which I find erroneous. And so I find it very concerning a lot of times what the medical profession says. So 35 years later, no, I haven't had a full checkup in 35 years. Am I right or wrong? People say, well, what about mammograms? What about colonoscopies? Haven't had those either. Now, mind you, I could wake up tomorrow and go, "What's that lump?" I could wake up tomorrow and say, "Why can't I go to the bathroom?" And then I do go in and get the colonoscopy, and it's an emergency, and I'm stage 3C. You know what I mean? It could happen. I could be stage 4 and go, "Ah, why didn't I go to the doctor? I should have gotten the checkups." Sure, they would have a reason to be annoyed with me. But here's the thing. I am my own person, and the person you love is their own person too, especially if they're an adult. They're living a lifestyle they want to live. They're living their life the way they are comfortable. And just because you're comfortable with certain things and certain beliefs, it doesn't mean they're comfortable with those things and certain beliefs. I know a lot of people who go to the doctor all the time. They end up with unnecessary surgeries, unnecessary medicines, and they still end up getting eventually diagnosed with a cancer that kills them. They go through chemo and they still end up dead. So I know that there's no perfection in the medical world either. And there's certainly a lot of, like you say, charlatans in the, if you just drink juice, the cancer will go away. If you get rid of sugar, cancer will go away. I know a fellow right now who's got pancreatic cancers, and it's really sad. He's got 7 children, and that's a child I knew, was a friend of my son's, and was when my kids were growing up, we were friends with their parents, so he spent a lot of time at my house. And he's got 7 children, and he's looking for money to go to Mexico to get a unique treatment, shall we say, because he knows pancreatic cancer is deadly, and we have no good treatments, medical treatments in the United States and anywhere in the world. We just don't have any good ones. So he's going for his last ditch effort, hugely expensive. I think it's like $40,000, something outrageous, to go to Mexico and get this treatment. Do I think it's nonsense? Yeah, I do. Because I don't see that there's evidence that that's going to make any difference either. Now, if you don't have a decent medical treatment and you want to try something, you want to try fasting, you want to try eating nothing but mangoes, you want to try whatever you want to try. I'll give you a story. So I'm on this bus. I'm coming from California back. I'm California on a Greyhound bus back to Washington, D.C. area. Met this fellow on the bus who was probably in his 70s. And he told me what had happened with him. And he said this. He said that 7 years ago, he was living in New York City, or Long Island, I think it was somewhere in there. And he got throat cancer. They told me, the doctor said he was a goner and he should go into hospice or nursing home. His wife was like, "Yes, honey, you need to go." Apparently his wife was cheating on him with another man, and she wanted him dead. And so she was like, "Okay, you got 4th stage, whatever you got, throat cancer, bye-bye." She was rushing him along. He was so pissed off about her, not the doctor. He figured he was a goner. He was so pissed off at her, he said, that he got on a bicycle and he bicycled west. And he said he wasn't trying to get to California. He just figured he'd drop dead along the way and end up in a ditch someplace. And he said, "I didn't care. I was like, I'll just get this last experience. I could just bicycling away from my evil wife, just bicycling away. And when I die in a ditch someplace, you won't find my body forever. It'll just be great." He said, "I got to California. I got all the way to California and I didn't die." He says, "It's been 7 years." He said, "I'm going home and saying, still alive," before she can collect on the money. So now it's a story. Can I say it's true? No, but maybe it is true. Maybe that bicycling and the fresh air and that amount of energy through his body, whatever, actually cured him. Who am I to say? So the thing is, you can't, when you tell somebody else this is what they need to do, they need to go do this and this and this and this, even if it makes them uncomfortable, miserable every single moment of it. It's not something we have the right to tell another person. The same way a person shouldn't have the right to say to you, "Don't go to a doctor. You should be just juice fasting. Don't go to a doctor." And they have every right to choose to go to a doctor because that's their way of thinking. So if you're going to, first of all, they don't need your advice unless they ask your advice. If somebody says, "Hey, what do you I've tried this. I'm a little concerned. What are your opinions on it?" You can say, well, this is the way I think. And you can present the way you think without saying, this is what you need to do. You're wrong for what you're doing. In the long run, we never exactly know why anybody dies or why they don't die. Sometimes I'm shocked. I've been on TikTok recently, and watching people who have 4-stage diagnoses of cancer of one sort or the other, and I've seen what their life was before and what their life is now. Some of them have actually been very super healthy and organic people, and they end up with cancer anyway. Some other people have been more like, well, I have no idea. Maybe it's my lifestyle. I didn't live the best one, and they had cancer. So I can't come up with an actual reason why they got the cancer. And then how they deal with it after that is interesting. Some will just go straight. They just do all the chemo, straightforward medical stuff. Other people refuse it. They don't want to do anything medical. And I've seen people who are like super into organic and natural stuff do the chemo, but at the same time juice a lot and do everything organic they can to offset, they think, the ravages of the chemo. Oftentimes, if you look back a year later, they're all dead anyway, no matter what they did. And it's very, very sad. So what choices people make when they have terminal illnesses, what choices people make when they have something which you think maybe they caught it in time. When you think about, like, for example, when you go in and get a mammogram, I have watched so many people get mammograms, and now they're questioning whether the mammograms are really more harmful than they're helpful, because there's so many women who've gotten, I'll tell you, I experienced this, and I was horrified because I had never knew this is how it worked. So I was interpreting for a woman who, they did a mammogram, they saw something, quote, suspicious. And then, by the way, quote, suspicious is this. They saw too many white dots that were too many and too close. That was the claim. So what they do is they do the mammogram, they send the off to a radiologist in another country. In the middle of the night, he looks at this and goes, well, it could be suspicious. Now, mind you, one of the things they learn is that the more the suspicious they can deem something, the more money the hospital makes. Because if they just say, well, and also protects against lawsuits. So if you see anything, even though it's 99% probably not going to be anything, if you say it could be something, you make them hospital money and you prevent a lawsuit. So this woman got that. Oh, these things are concerning. So she goes in to get the biopsy, which I did not know how that worked. So she lies down on a table. The table has a hole in it for your boob. She lies down on the table and her boob is hanging out through the hole. And I'm like, oh my God. And the doctor now gets down there and he takes this long needly thing and he stabs her, like he gives her some medication. So she wasn't in pain or anything, but so he like drills into her boob and then he like sucks out some material, sends it to the lab. It was so barbaric. I'm watching this thing going, oh my God. I'm like, I didn't actually sign that, or she would have seen it, but I was thinking it. And it came back normal. And then she's relieved, of course. But does anybody question the whole process, whether it was necessary or not necessary, and what kind of damage it could do in the long run? Because we actually don't know. And the medical community protects itself. So you can't ever tell whether they're telling the truth or not, because they don't want lawsuits. And the hospital's going to do whatever they can to make sure that it's not our fault. If you die of something, it's not our fault. So a lot of times it's very difficult to know whether you should have gone this way or that way. Same thing is true for childbirth. So there's certain hospitals have an excess of C-sections. And I mean, a huge amount of C-sections. Why? Because they just do them because, I don't know, they like to do them and make some money. Or they're not very good with natural childbirth, or whatever the reasons are. And it is, and sometimes people say, well, it's because the population that hospital gets is more high risk. That has some meaning. But I have interpreted in the hospital for years, watching these births, and I've seen so much medical malpractice during the birthing process. Oh my God, it's just horrifying, absolutely horrifying. Not that some people don't need a C-section. There are times when it's an emergency, they need that. But I've seen so much being done wrong to the point where they end up getting a C-section because they've mucked up the entire birth. So then you say, well, which is better, a home birth or hospital birth. And the people who believe in hospital births will say, oh, those home birth people are crazy. They're having a baby at home. Anything could happen. There's not the proper people there and the not proper emergency response. And they'll point out the one person who lost their baby during childbirth at home. And they'll say, see, but they don't talk about all the babies and mothers who have died in a hospital during a birth process as well. Now, was I a home birther? Yes, I was. And I also had an unattended home birth. My first child was in a hospital, thought I'd never do it again. That was a horrible experience. And the second child, I said, I'll have that baby at home. And I did. And it was unattended in the sense that I didn't have the money for proper people, but I had somebody who was a midwife. She was studying to be a midwife. So she'd been at a lot of births. So she was there. I had my friends, their family, and the birth went smoothly. And it was so much better than the hospital birth. My daughter also had a home birth. She did have a midwife. And she originally said, I'm not doing that. And she decided after she looked at things, she said, yeah, I'm doing that. And it was wonderful and really nice. And there have been good hospital births as well. But you have to be comfortable. Each person, they're not necessarily right or wrong. They have to be comfortable with the life they're living. You're not living their life. You don't want to make that decision for them. I never told my daughter you should have a home birth. Never told her that. Why? Because she went on and had a home birth and it didn't go right. Who's to blame? She'll say, you made me do this. I'm like, hey, it's your decision. You're an adult woman. You can explore, you can research, you can find out which way you're more comfortable going. And you do that. I don't tell my sons whether they should or should not go to a doctor. They have their differing opinions on that. They are basically more medically minded than I am. They're more like, Mom, Mom, could you go to a doctor sometime this century? Maybe I will. Maybe I won't, but it's still my decision and it's still their decision. So I would say to any of you who want to think that you can save somebody because you know better than them and they shouldn't be taking the route they're doing. And the naturalist health people will say you shouldn't be going to the doctor, you shouldn't be getting that surgery, you shouldn't be taking those drugs, blah, blah, blah. And over on the other side, oh, you guys you should be going to see the doctor. That's not going to save you, blah, blah, blah. So, everybody has an ability to find out information and then just determine for themselves what they want to do. You're not living their life. And maybe they will die sooner because of their decision, or maybe they'll not die sooner because of their decision. But it's still their decision. Let them live their own lives, support them, be there for them. You don't have to agree with them, but be there for them, support them, and be kind. Those are my thoughts on this. And I hope it helps everybody be there for each other without being a pain in the butt. Thank you for being here again. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.